last days of old school.
Right.
You know, the last days of old technology meet the first days of new technology.
Sure.
Welcome to the episode of Jay Leno's Garage. The car we're featuring today, beautifully restored Jaguar XKE 1963, restored by Classic Jaguar in Austin, Texas. Fascinating story, interesting history. It's made of aluminum. Well, let's bring the man in who's the president of the company who did the restoration, Dan Mooney. Dan, come on in. Boy, nice work.
Thank you, sir.
And this is more than, I mean, this is every nut and bolt. And the panels that were steel, you've remade the whole car in aluminum, is that correct? Yes,
normally we would restore the car in steel, but on this particular one, it's part of our alloy platform.
Right.
So we wanted to build the car to, you know, as a tribute to the lightweight races from 1963.
And how much lighter is it than the steel car?
It's not that much, actually, about 400 or 500 pounds. This particular car weighs 2,200 pounds.
Well, that's unbelievable. 500 pounds is quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's, you know, there are things in this car, though, that unfortunately actually weigh more than the original car, like the roll cage. And
right.
We've got a 35-gallon fuel cell in it that, you know, can take 220 pounds of fuel, so.
Are you using the Girling brakes from 63, or have you
No,
updated those?
no, we've used Willwood brakes.
Oh, okay, oh, we love them, yeah.
And we, you know, this particular car was built not as an exact replica of the 63 lightweight. It was built to drive.
Right.
And the person who owns the car really drives his cars, so we've actually incorporated a lot of the reliability and performance upgrades that we do on our regular cars in this car.
Well, I don't want people confused with it's some kind of kit car or some kind of replica. I mean, it's all Jag. It started life as a 63 XKE. Instead of making the panels out of steel, you just made them out of aluminum, correct?
Yes, and this particular car is a matching number 1963 E-Type Roadster.
Okay.
Except for the head. We
Yeah.
changed the head for a wide-angled head.
Right.
But the block itself is the original block. The gauges are original. The running gear really is all original.
Okay. So it started as a 3.8, you took it to what, 4.2?
Almost, yeah, 4.415. We stroked it a little bit, about 3.5 tenths.
Well, all the real Jaguar guys seem to prefer the 3.8 because it revs a little freer, right? Isn't that
It
fair to
really
say?
does.
Yeah.
In fact, we set a rev limiter on this car at 6,200,
Yeah.
but it'll rev all the way up to 66, 6,700. And in fact, it was still picking up power on the dyno at 62. So
Now, where do you get the panel? How do you stamp out these aluminum panels?
well, this particular body was actually sourced in Europe. So we bought the monocoque in Europe,
I see.
and then we spent about 1,500 hours fettling it and making it look like it does today.
Okay.
The total restoration took about 3,000 hours.
And I assume every nut and bolt has gone through on this car. There's
Yes.
really nothing old that you didn't have to restore. You've done everything to it, right?
Correct, absolutely. Better than new, really.
And what gearbox?
Well, we actually went with a 4-speed synchro out of a later 65 Jaguar
Oh, interesting.
because I like them.
Yeah.
I think they're a really smooth shifting gearbox and they're strong. And this car has about 360 foot-pounds of torque. And the 5 speeds that many people are putting in these cars when they restore them is not really strong enough for that amount of torque.
Oh, that's interesting. And it's too short to get an overdrive unit, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can't-
You just don't have enough room for the tail housing.
Right. Okay. Well, that keeps it more authentic, a proper 4-speed. Boy, those are beefy tires. Pretty amazing. How big are those? Those are...
Well, there's 6.5 Dunlops on the back and 6 on the front, but that's a bit misleading. The rear tires are about 9.4 inches wide, and the rear wheels are 8 inches, and the front wheels are 7.
Are you using the original Jaguar steering box as well?
We are. Well, actually, no. It's actually got a quick rack in it, but it's a replica of the original rack.
Okay, but that's an aftermarket piece.
It is an aftermarket piece.
Okay. Well, I imagine with the beefier tires, you need a stronger rack. Because I remember the original, it would sort of do this a little bit, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, so that's why I wondered how safe it would be if it just had the straight stock original rack in it.
Yeah, and because the guy's going to drive this car on the street, I mean, we've really paid attention to things like that.
Now, any creature comforts, air conditioning, heater, any of that?
No. A window.
Oh, you have a window. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, the top comes off.
Yeah, it does, but really these cars are never seen with the top off.
Really?
The lightweight E-Types, this is the look.
Oh, okay.
I mean, when I grew up as a kid, this was the look that I was.
Okay. But this does
dreaming
come
about.
off, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It lifts off the same as an E-Type top.
Right, okay.
It's made of aluminum, of course, but it comes off very easily, actually. Yeah, and it's genuine. I mean, the car's been TIG welded and gas welded together, but all of the rivets you see are legitimate rivets.
Yeah, and there's nothing the state is going to come after you about because it's all 63 Jaguar.
Yeah.
There's frame, or no frame, what
That's much the frame, yeah.
Yeah, but matching number, all that kind of stuff. So great, because a lot of people build cars and we title it as a 61, but it's actually a 2018, you know, and then you get in trouble and, you know.
No, this car is inspected, it's registered and titled. It's, like I say, completely road legal.
Okay, can we open the bonnet and take a look underneath?
There's a handle and a belt.
Now, see, I don't recognize this. This handle, is that
Yeah,
is that a lightweight item?
They were on all the lightweights, yeah.
Okay, on both sides?
Yes, so basically this is copied from the lightweights.
Okay. Ooh, still the prettiest engine, just beautiful.
They are gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the things that we've done here, we haven't tried to replicate the 63 lightweight engine bay. For example, we've made it wet sump. It's not a dry sump engine like the original was. We want the car to be easy to maintain, and this guy, you know, could drive the car in Colorado, New York, Texas, wherever, you know. We're building these cars as well for people abroad.
And what's the reason for the cover over the alternator?
Just to insulate it from heat from these headers.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense. Sure, sure. Okay. Very good, very good. And you've got a period-looking battery.
It's a period-looking battery, but it's actually a very modern battery on the inside.
You have an Optima or something underneath there. Very nice. Okay. And of course, the beautiful headers. Those stainless steel?
They are. They're 3 or 4 stainless. They were made for me in England by the company that make all my headers, actually, for the regular cars that we build.
And what size Webers are those? Let's come around.
They're 45s, and they're actually period Webers, the 1963 Italian-made DCO 9s or 45s. And we love the Webers in the shop. We put them on most of the upgraded cars that we build.
And you have the screens because the air was much cleaner in 63. So
right, I know. It's. I mean, we do have some K&N filters for it, but they looked a bit garish to me.
Yeah, but when you want to drive it, you want to put the...
If you were going to take it across country or something, you would put some filters on it.
Well, I imagine being open like this, you're just kicking up road dust and things.
It does.
On the tires.
It does.
Yeah.
The screens are lip service to filtration, really.
Yeah, lip service to filtration. All right, very good. Very good. Nicely done. Nicely done. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, it certainly looks period. The header tank and the
well, this is an aftermarket item.
Oh, what do we have there?
That's actually an electric vacuum pump because the cams that we've got in there is about 4.5 lift, about 450 lift. They don't generate much vacuum at all, so the brake assistance is very limited.
Okay.
So this is an electric vacuum pump.
It seemed like the car would be light enough you wouldn't need it, no?
Well, it's pretty quick. I mean, it's got quite a lot of power. So I mean, again, because he's driving it on the street, he's going to be driving it in traffic. It's nice to have that little bit of assistance on the brakes.
It feels like a power brake, yeah. And what do we have there? What is that?
That's actually a crankcase breather.
Okay.
And you know, again, this cylinder head is different to the normal E-type cylinder head, so it doesn't have that crankcase breather on the front.
Oh, okay. Okay. And do you use the original engine from the car?
Yeah, this is the original block, actually, the matching number block.
Right, right.
And we have the original head as well, but obviously this is the wide-angle version.
Okay, and this air duct goes through the carburetors? No, where are we shooting air from?
Basically, this is blowing cold air in front of these Webers,
okay,
yes.
Right, right, okay. So that's picking up any road dirt or anything?
Yes, and stones. And
stones, and yeah. So put those filters on. I would put those filters on. Boy, it's beautiful, the uprights, everything. Are those all new suspension pieces or just sandblasted and cleaned up?
No, they're actually plated. We CAD plated them.
Yeah.
And we cut that. You see that little triangle that's cut out of the upper control arm?
Right.
That's sort of a homage to the original lightweights as well.
Gotcha. And 2,200 pounds, that's unbelievable.
Well, we could get a little bit lighter than that, but
just skip a couple of lunches.
Well, yes. Yeah. But the fuel is really quite heavy. Mind you, the advantage to having a 35-gallon tank is about a 425, 450 mile range on this car, which for an E-type is unheard of.
Right. And what is this? What's the tank I'm looking at here?
That's actually the vacuum tank that supports the brake booster.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I've put a brake master cylinder and booster from a 65, effectively, a 4.2 car.
Now, what's your background? Was this a hobby? Were you a Jag specialist in England? Or?
No, I was a detective in England at Scotland Yard, actually.
Oh, is that right?
And I restored these as a hobby.
Okay.
And then I came over to the States in '94 with my wife's career, actually. Took a 2-year sabbatical from Scotland Yard.
Right.
And haven't called them back yet.
Are they still looking for you?
They may well be, because
Yeah.
I didn't go back.
So you're not still on the force officially?
No, I
So-
left in '94.
So now you're just doing the Jag thing full time?
Yes, I started restoring Jaguars and Aston Martins and Ferraris and stuff when I came over here, and got very fortunate, and the business kind of took off,
Oh, okay.
and decided not to go back.
Is it tricky? Do you get a lot of flaky customers? People start a project like this. I mean, I assume something like this is probably in the $400,000 range. Is that right?
Yeah, it's about 450,000
Okay.
for one of these cars.
I mean, you have a lot of these rich guys that have no idea, and they put a deposit, and then you start your work, and then they. I mean, is it a frustrating business?
No, not at all. In fact, we've been very fortunate, and most of the customers that I build cars for end up being good friends. And I tell them at a very early stage, in fact, before we start, that this is going to cost you $500,000 or whatever it's going to cost.
Right.
And I don't want that to be a surprise 3/4 of the way through.
Right.
So no, I don't have any problems with my customers.
Now, do people bring you the donor car and do this, or do you find a donor car, then call a guy and go, hey, I found a car, we can start, you know?
It varies. More often than not, somebody will call me and say, you know, I had one of these cars in college, or I've always dreamt of owning one of these cars, go and find me one, and it must be 63 or whatever. This particular car, we bought it specifically for this project. Out of literally hundreds of E-types that have been through my hands, I would say it was probably the rustiest. We put it on a lift and raised it in the air, and it literally fell in two. There are photographs of it in the front of the book in the car that actually show it in two pieces on the lift.
You know, it's funny, I can remember looking at an E-Type for $800. I thought, yeah, it's okay. It runs. I'll give you $650 now. You wanted $8. You know, obviously those days are gone forever. But it must be harder and harder to get donor cars now, isn't it?
Well, it is, but I'm always wondering when we're going to reach the bottom of the barrel, but they keep turning up, and literally every week I get a phone call from somebody saying, I've had this car in the garage for, 40 years, and it's time to do something with it, or I'd like to sell it.
Now, could you build this starting with a Jaguar saloon car?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay. So any Jag from this, any 60s Jaguar, you can do that.
You could. I mean, Lynx in England used to do that all the time. You know, they would build their D-types and C-types and stuff using Jaguar. Typically, that'd be the cheapest Jag they could find. It would be a 2+2 automatic.
Right.
Series 2 or whatever. I like to try to buy one that was in the factory at the same time as the one that we're trying to replicate.
And you only do aluminum. You don't do the fiberglass bodies, right?
I don't do fiberglass at all.
No.
Almost all of the cars we build are steel. We're doing some aluminum Italian cars, some Zagatos and Ferraris and things as well.
Do these come out of Poland, the bodies? Is that
Yes.
where they come? Yeah.
Yes.
They have some of the best metal workers.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, because they had some sort of MiG Russian jet factory over there. These guys would make panels, and that kind of fell apart. And now they do these things. I mean, the quality. And it looks to be a bit thicker than maybe it would have been back in the day, correct?
Well, back in the day, it would have been 60 thou, 3003 aluminum.
Right.
This is actually 80 thou for the outer panels.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It looks a bit thick.
Yeah.
Because this way, the old car, you could go like that with your thumb and leave your thumbprint
and
in
you
it.
could oil can the panels.
Yeah.
But on the inside of the cabin and the firewall, it's actually 125 thou aluminum. So they're really sturdily built. And in fact, we reinforced the underside where the front subframes and the IRS mount with steel, because the original cars had a tendency to crack in those areas. And of course, they didn't really care about that at the time, because they only wanted to get half a dozen races out of it.
Right. And they were old, you know, the idea that any of this stuff would be saved seemed inconceivable.
Absolutely.
Back in the day. You know, I always tell people, well, the yellow Lamborghini Miura I have, a guy gave it to me because of a blown engine, and it wasn't worth anything because the engine was blown. I mean, the idea of fixing it seemed ridiculous.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Does the boot open as well?
It does, yes. The original lightweight wouldn't have had an internal latch, but we've put that in there for security as much as anything. But then this actually turns around.
Right.
And this is the 35-gallon cell I was telling you about.
Okay, so I guess you could carry a couple of golf tees. You couldn't get any clubs in here, but
you can get very little in there.
You can put a couple of golf tees and a couple of golf balls. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Now this is a Le Mans, it's a Le Mans release.
Right.
But we've actually got a screw-in cap down there as well.
Okay.
And that's for FIA reasons, because if we were to take this car to the track, these are now outlawed. You can have them if it's for show,
Right.
But behind that Le Mans filler cap has to be a genuine screw-on cap.
Plus, if somebody's screwing with the other, they're going to think, oh, what's that, you know? So.
Right.
Right. Oh, good. Now this needs to be shut to shut that?
No, it can close with that.
Oh,
now.
okay, okay. Boy, beautiful trunk, nicely done.
Thank you.
And of course, this is to get air out of the.
Out of the cabin, yeah,
Right.
and the boot compartment.
There we go. And of course, you lose the bumpers. I love the fact you kept the original tail lights and stuff. I see so many that are restored and they're not Jags anymore. They, you know.
I agree. One of the things that I always think about when I'm building a car, or even if I'm developing a performance part, is would Sir William Lyons have approved? You know, would he think this was, you know, looked good or should
Right,
be done?
yeah.
And I'm convinced that a lot of the performance and reliability upgrades on this car he would have used if that technology had been available to
Yeah,
him.
well, I think that probably makes sense. And there's no anti-lock brakes or any of that, right?
No.
No, just.
We have put vented brakes on front and rear.
Right. But at 2,200 pounds, that's pretty amazing. Let's see what's in the interior. We got your harness. And I love the fact you kept the classic Jaguar dashboard.
Yes.
And the toggles are great. I hated the rockers they put in later. It's like, ugh, it just.
Everybody does, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, 63 was the year. I've got two 63s in there. They're both my favorite. And of course, you do all the aluminum panels in here as well. I suppose somebody wanted Wilton carpeting, you could get that if you wanted.
Not for this car.
Not for this one. No.
No.
So you restore all kind of Jaguars, or just E-types, or what?
No, we do pretty much all of the 50s and 60s cars. We're also doing an SS100 at the moment as well.
How about the Mark IIs? I always like those.
I love them, but unfortunately they're just not worth enough money for somebody to put a huge amount of restoration money into them. I've got a couple of them actually. I really like them.
Yeah. And you have plastic windows?
We do. We made the windows and we made the frames.
Right.
So these aren't chrome. These are polished aluminum
Right.
fabricated frames.
Why no battery cutoff? That seemed like it would be.
Well, if we were going to take it on the track, we would put a battery
Okay.
cutoff on it. But this car's never going to go to the track.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And you're getting 350 horsepower out of it?
This one's at least 350 horsepower. 'Cause
So-
I've only got the timing at 28 degrees, so it's really a conservative tune.
So what have you done? I mean, they were 265, I think, new, and even that was like, yeah.
I think they were more like 215 or 220.
Yeah, that's what I thought. How do you get the extra 150? Because obviously, well, what's your compression ratio on this?
Well, it's actually not outrageous, 9.7 to 1, 9.8 to 1. And again, we haven't overboard it significantly. We're only about 19 thou oversize on the pistons. Obviously, it's got the wide-angled head, which allows us to put.
Heads and all that, yeah.
We did, and we actually, when we got the head as a core, we reworked the head quite a lot, picked up quite a lot of flow on the head. And it's got the intake valves on this are over 2 inches as well, so we're getting quite a lot of fuel into it. But torque-wise, the crank is the biggest help for that.
Yeah.
Taking it from 4.173 stroke, which is pretty much the same as all of these old Jags, to 4.528, and that really helps with the torque.
Oh, very good. Boy, it's just beautifully done.
Thank you.
And I like that there's enough of the original Jag, so I get the feel for the original car.
Right.
You know, so many times I see stuff and I go, so what about this one? Except for the 350 Chevy and the automatic, it's still a Jag. You know, and you go, well, no, not really. It doesn't really work that way. Well, this is very exciting. As you saw, I've got 4 Jags over there. I'm a huge fan of the Mark. Can we take this one for a ride?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Noisy and nasty, considering there's no insulation or interior.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all.
The low drag coupe that we're building, we're going to do it almost the same as this, except it's going to have a 4.7 stroker, which is about 450 foot-pounds of torque and about 390 horsepower. So that'll be a really quick car.
You want synthetic, so you like straight oil?
On this car, I like to run the Valvoline VR1 because it's got lots of zinc in it.
Yeah.
So traditional oil in this car. In the modern cars that we take care of, I run synthetic.
Yeah. Do you use the original rear end?
It is the original. No, it is the original. They can handle a ton of power, actually.
Yeah.
We did beef up the wishbones and put some angles on the wishbones because of the extra torque. But the diff itself is completely original.
I think I would like this as an open car too.
Yeah. Well, without the roll cage, you could drive it as a convertible.
Yeah, yeah.
With the roll cage, it looks a bit silly, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Then you look like some government safety car. Yeah.
It's some sort of testing.
Wear an orange vest.
Testing rig, yeah.
Lovely sound. Really is the best.
They're great engines, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are.
And if they're built properly, they're bomb-proof. You know, we thrash these things, you know.
Yeah.
We're probably building more of these Jaguar engines than anybody in the world, I would imagine. And
Oh, is that right?
yeah, we have our own in-house engine shop and everything. And we don't just do Jaguars, but we mostly do Jaguars.
Yeah, yeah.
At any given time, we've probably got a couple of dozen Jaguar engines on the way.
What's your favorite? The 3.8?
Yeah, because of that so beautifully.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, with these cars, it's not about ultimate power. If you want to go really fast,
Yeah.
there's plenty of modern cars you can get in that'll kill it, you know. But I like this sort of mid-range power, we would call this one.
I know a friend of mine's got a Fiat A-Bar. And, you know, like $10,000, you can bring it up to 180 horsepower. And I go, why just buy another car?
Right.
I mean, first of all, I can buy a Toyota with 180 horsepower.
Right.
You know, I mean, it doesn't...
You know, I've got a Ferrari F12 in the shop at the moment, and driving that car, I don't know if you've driven one of those, but it is ridiculously fast.
Yeah.
730 odd horsepower
Yeah, yeah.
or something in a really comfortable white
Oh, that's the front wheel. That's the front engine model.
Front
right?
engine V12, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Nice
And,
car.
you know, so there's lots of stuff that you can drive really fast, and stuff like this, I think, it can still be quick and pull
Yeah.
like a train, really.
Right, right.
But, you know, if you're going to get into the horsepower wars, this isn't the engine to do.
No, no. Like I always say, all the funds I have between 40 and 110.
Right.
Above that, you're going to prison.
Right.
You know, it's funny. The EB110 is nice, but that's like the first days of new school. This is like the last days of old school.
Right.
And you know, to me, you know, the last days of old technology beat the first days of new technology.
Sure, no, I
You
agree.
know, I mean, you know, you can't pit a modern, you know, F1 or P1 or 720 against something like this. But the early version, you know, 560 horsepower,
Right.
no big deal anymore.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
I always tell people this is my favorite era because it's exactly the halfway point in the development of the automobile.
I've never
You
thought
know,
about that, yeah.
you figure you run about 50 years earlier, that's the beginning. 50 years is where we are now. And cars have changed more since 2000 to now than they did from 1900 to 2000. You know, everything has gone from mechanical to nobody fixes, everything is replaced now.
You know, that's right. And one of the things, I've got an old Vanquish Air Aston, and it's still got that lovely hydraulic steering.
Right.
And, you know, the new Astons have got this electronic steering, which really has got no feel to it, or for me anyway. I much
No,
prefer,
I know what you mean.
you know, the older style.
Well, I want to thank Dan from Classic Jaguar, correct?
Yes, sir.
ClassicJaguar.com, is that the website?
That's correct.
Cool, cool. Well, beautiful work.
Thank you.
I must admit I hadn't heard of you till this car showed up, but I will check it out, and it's just fantastic. I like that it's not a recreation. I like that it's not a continuation car. It's all Jaguar. It's a proper 63. Nothing phony about it. You just did the panels in aluminum rather than steel, and you
Right.
save yourself about 400 pounds. And boy, it's just great.
Thank you.
This is probably the most powerful six-cylinder Jaguar engine I think I've ever driven, and yet it feels close enough to stop to still be relatable. You know, it's some peaky thing that's on the cam all the time. Very nice. So thanks so much for coming.
Thank you. It's been a
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Yeah, this is
Really.
great.
Thank you.
Cool. See you next week.
Mm-hmm.